I was born and raised in Tokyo, Japan, and grew up in non-Christian family. Only less than 1% is Christian in Japanese population. When I was 12, my parents decided to put me into private Protestant girls' school. But during that time, I really didn't feel any closer to God. It was just one of the study subject.
So I grew up in a small town, and my family was Catholic. And so growing up, I grew up going to church every Sunday, but my relationship with God and religion to me felt very performative. I felt like I was going through the motions and just how I related to God. And so that went on, throughout my childhood, all the way through high school. And then when I went off to college, I went to a small college in the Midwest. When I got that first taste of freedom, something shifted on the inside of me, and I just totally turned my back on God. I didn't want anything to do with God anymore. And I was just enjoying the freedom that I felt like I had for the first time in my life.
Raised in a home where we did church once in a while. It wasn't a regular thing. We were Baptists because that's where my dad attended church, and we went there. We didn't talk about Jesus at home. There wasn't much talk about God on the way to church or the way back. One year, my grandma, I was about 10 years old. She was Assemblies of God, born again believer, talked about Jesus all the time, just like she knew him. And she says, they're having a church camp, and it's going to be at Fayehola Park, Grass Lake, Michigan, and I'd like to have you go there. I think it would be really good for you. So kind of begrudgingly, I went, and lo and behold, Jimmy Swaggart was preaching all 3 nights there, hellfire and brimstone. And every night when the altar call would be given, I would feel this tug to go forward, but just out of fear, never could do it. And the last night, he preached such a strong message that it scared the daylights out of me. And I went down there screaming, crying, had an encounter with the Lord, met the Holy Spirit, had no idea what was going on, but knew something was different.
I met my ex-husband who was serving U.S. Navy in Japan. We met at the time of his discharge. We moved back to his hometown and starting a newlywed life in Northern California. It wasn't easy for me. The life wasn't what I expected, I guess. I was naive, young and brave, and got married and moved here. However, he started developing his old habit, drug use, verbal abuse. The relationship wasn't healthy. Growing up in Japan, especially as a girl, being patient, quiet, don't bother anybody was kind of great traits as a girl in Japan. So I didn't tell anyone the issue I was going through. There's no resource for marriage counseling. This is back in the 90s, no internet, no Google. So I kept everything for myself. That verbal abuse escalated to physical abuse towards the end of our marriage of 16 years. And I really didn't think about divorce. I wasn't thinking about myself to make myself happy. That ultimately led me to escaping that situation.
I came to my senior year of college, and I had stayed in my college town that summer, and out of the blue, these memories came back all of a sudden that I had repressed for many, many years. And it was these memories that I had been sexually abused by a family member when I was 5 years old. I was about 20 years old when that happened, and I was entering my senior year of college. And from that point on, I noticed a major shift in my mental health where I started going downhill mentally. But because of the shame attached to what had happened to me and I had never processed it, I went inward and I hid it from everybody around me. And at this point in my life, I didn't have any kind of relationship with God or with Jesus, and I had turned my back on religion. And so the day after I graduated college, I remember waking up in my childhood bedroom, and I remember the minute I opened my eyes, I could feel this heavy depression set in on my life. And I knew deep down that that's what it was. And so for 6 very long years, I just had this heaviness that set into my life. And I would wake up and I would go to work and I would just have this dread and this just mental torment that just consumed my life. And I would come home from work and I would lock myself in my bedroom and I would just cry and I would cry and I would numb myself with TV and social media, just trying to find anything to just escape that pain I felt in my soul. In that process, I tried everything that I could think of that, society tells us will make me feel better, but nothing worked. I was experiencing suicidal thoughts. I didn't want to die per se, but I just wanted to disappear because I was in so much, mental torment, this aching in my soul that wouldn't go away, and I just wanted to disappear.